Media. Find out more by going to blacktalkradionetwork.com or blacktalkmediaproject.org and look for the menu tab, Crowdfunding Black Media. Black Talk Media Project, helping to provide you with new black media for the new millennium.
And opinions expressed by callers, guests, and hosts do not necessarily reflect those of the Black Talk Radio Network and Black Talk Media Project. Black Talk Radio is new black media for the new millennium. Good afternoon and welcome to Black Talk Radio News. My name is Scotty Reed. I'm broadcasting from behind the enemy lines of USA Inc. If you don't know what that means, I'm going to give you a clue so you can go look it up. 1871. All right, so welcome to today's program. Today's date is October the 11th, 2016. It's a Tuesday. It's actually a pretty lovely Tuesday. I don't think I've ever used that word in a sentence before, but I think it's a pretty lovely day here in North Carolina, which is kind of sad when I think about people like Max Parthas and his family and millions of other people who were displaced by Hurricane Matthew. I happened to be in an area that was not impacted here in North Carolina, and I'm just thankful. I'm counting my blessings, but I'm also mindful of those who did not have such good fortunes. So just want to mention the victims out there. Haiti, going back to yesterday's program, Haiti suffered devastation, just 300 or so people. Wait a minute, I think I read an article where it said it might have been 800. I'm not sure on the death toll, but the destruction to the infrastructure. Look, they hadn't even recovered from that earthquake that hit them back in 2011. So, wow, I could just imagine the devastation that the island is looking like now. But they're saying, don't give your money to the Red Cross. Don't give your money to the Red Cross because they were supposed to build homes during the earthquake, and that was years ago. They took in hundreds of millions of dollars from people all over the world, regular people giving money, corporate donations, and they only built 6 homes. Can't tell you where the rest of the money went. Maybe you need to talk to the former Secretary of State about that, and also talk to the people that's running the Red Cross, since Congress doesn't seem to care who's supposed to have oversight. So today is just really going to be an open forum, going to share some news. And of course, I'm always have views that I'm willing to share, but it's just an open forum today. So if you have anything you want to ask me about or get my opinion on, or you want to share a battlefield report from where you are behind these enemy lines, and we also like to extend the invitation globally, as we are heard. This station is heard in many different countries, so anybody that understands what I'm saying and they can speak English, by all means, give us a call on our website, blacktalkradionetwork.com. There is a flash phone that allows you to make a free call, so give us a call. We want to hear from everybody. We haven't heard from our brother Spence out there in the Virgin Islands, so haven't heard from him in a while. Hope that the people on the island are doing okay. I don't know. I haven't heard about any widespread damage in the U.S. Virgin Islands, but just know, we thinking about y'all too. So, but the conference line is 641-715-3660. The participant code is 549032#. You hit *6 and 1. That'll signal me. I'll bring you right into the conversation. Same thing with the flash phone. Hit *6 and 1, and that will signal me. The studio line is also open. That's 704-951-5030. That's 704-951-5030. Maybe Skype will cooperate today and we'll be able to take calls. It hasn't given me any problems thus far, as I was broadcasting earlier this morning as I engineered the program Change Matters Solutions. Shout out to Kenny Hendricks and Colette Williams, who are the host of that program. It comes on the network every Tuesday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern time. That podcast is posted. They were just simply talking about a lot about Donald Trump. Donald Trump was dominating the conversation as he represents a clear threat, more so a threat than other people, in the host mind. I see him and Hillary Clinton personally as equally threats to the planet. So, anything y'all want to talk about, that's cool. Shout out to the YouTube listeners. Again, we're just now starting to stream the broadcast to our YouTube channel, which is Black Talk Media or Black Talk Radio. Looks like we got a call. Let's go ahead and see who's on 318 and see what question they want to add to the conversation. 318. See, I knew it. Skype was not going to cooperate. Okay, 318, are you there?
This service is provided in high definition by freeconferencecallhd.com. Please enter. Access code accepted. This conference is being recorded. Q&A session started.
Okay, Skype is tripping, and now we got it working right. Sorry, we got disconnected from the conference call. Yes, 318, you're on Black Talk Radio News. What's on your mind today? And can you please turn the audio down in the background, because that's all we're hearing. Can you turn the radio station down in the background? Okay, see. All right. Give it another try. This is just like terrestrial radio, people. When you call in, you can't have the radio station playing in the background. Let's try it again. 318. Do we got you now?
And can you please turn the audio down in the background?
Okay, we're not going to play them games. That's probably a racist suspect just playing around on the phone. So we're going to ignore 318. 318, you're going to have to try the conference line and go through the extra step of hitting *6 and 1. I'm not going to take that call no more, because they don't seem to know how to work the thing. And we're trying to do a broadcast here. So let me go ahead and get to some of the news as I close some of these windows from Skype. I want to go take it back. Speaking of racist suspects, we had a racist suspect call into the program yesterday at a very inappropriate time. Today would be the time to call in all racist suspects that want to ask me any question. Today we'll just do, what was that comedian name that wrote a lot of the material for Richard Pryor, and he a pretty funny guy. He also worked on Dave Chappelle show. Paul Mooney. Today will be Ask a Black Man Day. So any racist suspects out there that got any questions, anything they want to answer. Yesterday was not the appropriate time to be asking me about reparations, when that was not the topic of discussion that we were having with our guests yesterday. But I will revisit that topic. And I do want to say again, slavery has never been abolished in this country, not one day. It has actually come full circle where it's not just restricted to black bodies anymore. There are plenty of brown bodies, plenty of white bodies on prison plantations today. And Fortune 500 corporations, including USA Inc., are profiting off of that labor and paying them slave wages, which is where the term comes from. See, a lot of people don't know. They know some history, but they don't know all the details, and they don't know that's where the term slave wages come from. It doesn't mean minimum wage. It means like 25 cents an hour. Let's take this call from area code 614. 614, do we have you on the line? Please go ahead with your question.
Sir. How are you doing today?
I'm not going to complain too much. I'm doing better than a whole lot of people that got impacted by Hurricane Matthew. So, but what's on your mind?
Yeah, first of all, shouts out to those people and God blessings on Haiti. I just started listening about a week ago, and I just had a question. Why is swirling such a touchy subject in the Black community?
Well, I'll be 50 years old in November, and my life is this radio station and all our media operations. So I don't even know what that term means. What does swirling mean? So educate me on what it means. So I'm not up on the slang and all of that.
Okay, it's I guess just a social media term I picked up. Interracial dating.
Why is that such an issue in the Black community?
I had a thread in, I guess, in relevance to the Nate Parker movie.
Okay.
Being that he has a white wife, excuse me. And even though the movie is a great movie, I would, you should go see it. It seems to be a touchy subject. Some people feel like his bias or angle may be skewed, or maybe, it's a contradiction of principles, I guess, when it comes to Black power. I guess to put it in a question form, would people would Martin Luther King have the same effect if he had a white wife? Would Malcolm X have the same effect? Would their message be changed or skewed in any way?
Well, Malcolm X did have a half-white mother. That's where he got his light-skinned complexion and his red freckles and red hair from. But I'm gonna just simplify it without the term swirling and all this and that. Look, Black people are like any other people. We are not a monolithic group, meaning that there is room for all different opinions. So based on an individual's political ideology, religious ideology, just their world view, how they view the system of racism, which I call it a system of slavery and what have you, and the terroristic conditions that we're under. So that's going to shape a person's view. And so you have subgroups within a group. So if a person I don't have an issue with who a person's married to. What I have an issue with is what a person does and what their actions do. Are their actions working towards producing justice, or are their actions working towards producing non-justice? I've studied the abolitionist movement, as I'm a part of the new abolitionist movement to address modern day slavery. But when I look back and I see the biracial, whether they were Native American and African, or whether they were half white, their mother was a victim of rape, by the master or the enslaver. I don't like calling them masters, but the enslavers that raped them. And these people made tremendous contributions to the freedom movement of Black people, and they even identified themselves as Black. So, but we know Frederick Douglass, in his later years after his Black wife died, which he produced most of his children with, and as he got in his advanced years, he did marry an Irish woman, and I can see how that came about, because he was. Yeah, I'm sorry.
That's the situation I wanted you to bring up, because you mentioned one thing about Malcolm X and his mother being biracial. That's something that he couldn't help. I'm not talking about that. Who you're with, on the other hand, is something that you make a conscious choice to do. So that's what aspect I was kind of questioning.
Well, I can only speak for me. It's not an issue for me because I don't look at skin color in that regards. Now, I look at, are you practicing justice or are you practicing injustice? Are you practicing racism or are you practicing counter racism? And black people can practice proxy racism is a term that I came up with. So we got people who are married to a black wife that are engaged in enemy activity against the general black population. So again, what does skin color matter if you don't practice justice? I think the counter racist Neely Fuller said it best. They're like, what, waving a flag, the red, black, and green, or being proud because you a Frenchman or you German or African American, and you practice injustice against people and you're not producing justice. It don't matter what group you belong to, who you calling, what you calling yourself, or what flag you waving. You are practicing injustice. So that's how I personally look at it. I don't look at who they married to and all that. If they're married to a racist white person, can that racist white person influence them? Well, sure they can. Look at David Clark up there in Wisconsin with his white wife, okay?
Right.
But she ain't in control of him. He has free will to do whatever it is he wants to do. He has chosen to be part of the slaver class, and he wants to enslave people, and he seems to hate black people. So what difference do it matter what his color is?
Right. Well, that's like I said, that's everybody's personal opinion. I was just trying to get clarification on maybe I was having I don't know. I used to interracially date, but as I've become more knowledgeable of things like Emmett Till and put it in this proper perspective, as far as time and that person specifically and the events that went on in that situation. But as you go through history, it kind of, I don't know, I guess one's logic may push him to say, hey, it's better off not even trying to step in that water. And not to say that, every black woman is, you may come across a dead wench here or there. So it all comes down to the individual. So I definitely take it from that perspective. But I was just, I don't know. I'm trying.
I mean, personally, I don't prefer. And I mean, also, it can come down to personal preference. Like my little brother, he, it's a running joke between me and him, but my little brother is about 5'11", maybe 170 pounds now that he's in his 40s, but coming up, this boy was about like 150 and what have you. And this boy loved him some big chunky women. He loved the full-figured women. So that's his personal preference. With me, I prefer them a little slimmer, too petite, right. So it comes down to personal preference, and that includes if they are quote unquote interracially dating. My first and only wife, I'm divorced now. My first and only wife is Hawaiian. But you wouldn't even know she was Hawaiian unless she lets her hair stay straight, because if she put a perm in it, she looked like a light-skinned black people, and people used to mistake her for my sister because we're the same complexion. So I was young when I got married. I wasn't like into my culture like I am now. So now I would make a different choice if I had the information I had back then. But again, I married a non-white person who also is a victim of racist white people or the system, Right. So I don't think, bro, that a person will show their true. Let me put it this way: they'll show what team they playing for. Just pay attention to their actions. If they are married to a white person, I mean, again, I'm like this. I'm suspicious of everybody, because if we look at COINTELPRO, they use black people to infiltrate the Black Panther Party and other organizations to set people up. So you got to be suspicious of everybody. So if a person is white I see they got a white partner or whatnot, then I'm a, be extra cautious and paying more attention to what they do or say until they show and prove themselves. And then I'll take it from there.
And that's where I'm at. I'm to the point to where I'm closing myself off from everybody because I'm suspect of white for historical reasons and blacks for current reasons. So I'm trying to find some outlet that will allow me to not go into people. I was listening to Nelly for the truth. And he said one of the first characteristics of a white supremacist is, of course, them being white. Not to say it's absolute or guaranteed, but hey, that's one strike.
Let's quote him correctly, and I'm not saying you did this, purposely or anything, but I hear a lot of people misquote him. And this is what he said on that. He said that to be a white supremacist, you have to be white, but every white person isn't a white supremacist. And in his worldview, you have three types of people. You got white people, non-white people, and white supremacists.
Yeah, you're right. My first best friend in kindergarten was a white boy. We used to get beat up together on the schoolyard, and we still. I could never picture him actually maliciously trying to do something to. I couldn't see him being a racist. No way, shape, form, or fashion. I would have to see it. Once I saw it, then that would totally change my opinion. I have no problem with once I'm seeing it, but it's just the people that I don't know. And I need to reach out and, network, and it stops me from doing a lot of things.
Yeah, I don't want to sound like, I don't trust anybody. I'm just saying I'm until you show me, I'm cautious with everybody. I'm only going to reveal so much of myself to you until I get to know what type of person you are and how much you reveal yourself to me. And so, but at the same time, I don't want you to be like, you just can't be being paranoid. You know what I'm saying? Don't be paranoid. Don't get to that point to where you'll be isolating yourself. That's not good. And we don't want you to isolate yourself, but just be cautious and use common sense and you're dealing with everybody because they'll show themselves. So just, don't expose so much of yourself when you first meet people and see what they're about. And then those relationships over time will be established. And those that mean you no harm, well, they'll show themselves and then you just cut them out.
Right. I definitely appreciate that advice because I've been trying to do as you just stated, just judge these and I naturally do that. As you say, we're a naturally loving and welcoming and opening people, but as I go through history and try to see, where our last leaders made mistakes, because I'm in Louisiana right now. Mm-hmm. And I've stayed in the Midwest, so there's a different demographic. I kind of feel like intellectual, I guess, on that level, kind of a fish out of water.
Listen, consider this. This is why our organization, we have a nonprofit called it's based here in North Carolina, Black Talk Media Project. It's based off of what Malcolm said about the power of media. It has the power to control the minds of the masses. So you have to, and then when you also consider the legislation that was passed in 1996 that eventually led to the death of black radio. Black radio stations that are independent. I'm not talking about black people on white people's platforms. I'm talking about truly independent black radio stations that played an invaluable role during Malcolm and Martin's time, because that's the way that people were organizing and getting information. So we don't have that since 1996. Now they just killed black radio. So most of our people are getting their program. I shouldn't say most of our people. I would say most people, period, are getting their programming from racist suspects and people who are not interested in promoting truth and justice. So that we have to consider that whenever we're dealing with people who are not as enlightened as us. Because Malcolm also said, don't be so quick to judge somebody because they don't know as much as you know, because at one time you didn't know what you now know.
Exactly. But I think we should, as far as getting the information to the people, here's my plan and my idea. I'm writing a book right now, and I'm looking for, people that I can kind of get advice and suggestions from and things like that. And what I can do, or what I'm planning to do, is have such of a media platform as you have here, so that I can kind of forward information. And where I'm at, I'm less than 2 hours away from a naval base, and I've been watching the things that's going on with Russia, but that's over a lot of people's heads. So because of social media and all the distractions, so I want to take the Jehovah's Witness door to door, back before all the social media approach, and that's
a plan that we have for local media. We got media partners, but that was also our goal, is not just to have a national, or I would consider our platform to be international, as people tune in from all over the world and download our podcasts and stuff. So, but we have in our playbook plans to erect independent black media stations that are on a local basis, that are actually in the community. So, if you don't no longer have a black radio station, or it's a black radio station owned by white people like Clear Channel corporations and what have you, and only syndicating comedians, and that they're supposed to be giving us information, comedians, and most of the time they're telling jokes, and it's about joking around and laughing, and that has its place. But all of the program just can't be entertainment based and disinformation. So we have to erect what we lost. We build digital media stations with a physical presence in these neighborhoods, and replace those black stations that were lost.
Exactly. Nobody's doing that job. There's where I'm at. There's no independent black media whatsoever. There's entertainment, but no education whatsoever. So that would just be something that I would like to start to do. Kind of build up a platform to where I can start a conscious speaker tour, and just kind of bring some people through and just at least provide the knowledge. Yes.
And on the writer's tip, and I do have to move on, and I appreciate your call, but on the writer's tip, check out, go to blacktalkradionetwork.com, Black Talk Radio News, the program for 1010, the one I did yesterday. Both of those guests that I had on are writers. Okay, they heavily into that aspect of it, screenplay writing, book writing, and so we do have that's who you got to get with, man. People that you can learn from in what you're trying to do. So I recommend those two individuals, Miss Madison and what was the brother's name, Mr. McLeod. So check out that podcast. It has their contact information as well.
All right. Thank you, brother. And I appreciate you, and God bless you.
God bless you, too. You have a great day.
All right. You too.
Okay. Yeah, appreciate that call. And the question, now I had heard the term swirling, but I didn't know what it meant. I really didn't. So I appreciate him telling me what swirling meant. Now I know what I've been seeing in social media when people talking about swirling, because I just really, try to focus on things that are really going to help us, and I don't see how that is helping us when we focus on who's a person married to and not focus on what they actually doing. So, to each his own. Right now I only got eyes for black women. That's my personal preference. But that's not, if I come across somebody that's interested in what I'm trying to do, and that's end slavery, I'm not looking at their skin color. I'm listening to the words that's coming out of their mouth. I'm watching what they doing, and I will treat them accordingly. I treat everybody that way, because as I've studied this system, it has perfectly used, non-white people to do every evil thing that they have done on the planet. In fact, they could not have gotten as far as they've gotten without the help of non-white people, and primarily black people. But I don't want to go off on that tangent. But the history shows that black guns mattered. And so maybe we need to, while there are black bodies in the street and nobody's being held accountable, and there's not liberty and justice for all, and slavery is the law of the land, maybe we need to be boycotting military service. Maybe we don't need to be participating in a capitalist system that is really vulture capitalism. But I mean, when you look at how the things they do all around the world just so they can maintain Americans' standard of living, that's selfish right there. And you're not taking other people right to self-determination, right to feel safe and be safe in their own lands where they are without fear of these European countries with black people serving in their armies coming to bomb you out, take you out, kill, assassinate your leaders, stop you from coming up on the ladder like they did Africa, and that's what was behind the destruction of Libya. So, we just had to start looking at everything, man, and just trying to think logically. Think logically. All right, I do need to take a station identification break. Again, if you have any questions or comments, we're doing open forum today, news and views. The telephone number to the conference line is 641-715-3660. The participant code is 549-032#. Hit *6 and 1 to comment on air. The studio line, I think Skype may work properly now, as I went through that little issue with it. So we should be able to take your call and add you to the conversation on the studio line, 704-951-5030. So we will be back on the other side. Stay tuned.
The Black Talk Media Project funds the use of new media technology in efforts to restore independent black voices to the myriad of issues affecting Afro-descendant people all over the planet. If media can control the minds of the masses, as Malcolm X once said, then you must ask yourself, who is in control of the media targeting the masses of black people today? Help bring back independence, self-determination, and respect for black culture in the production of global media by joining the effort to crowdfund new black media for the new millennium. Visit blacktalkmediaproject.org for more information on how you can invest in public black radio for the masses.
And welcome back to Black Talk Radio News. Again, my name is Scotty Reed, and I'm broadcasting from behind these enemy lines of USA Inc., where they are still practicing slavery, engaged in human trafficking, and there is a need for new abolitionists because there are too many reformists out there, and you can't reform slavery. You have to abolish slavery. Our ancestors knew that, but because of the betrayal, the Lincoln betrayal, we are still plagued with the evil institution of slavery today. I mean, you can become an individual, quote unquote, slave master by just simply purchasing stock in any of these private prison companies that act globally. So this is a global problem. It is international slavery. And we're talking about not the kind that's already outlawed and illegal and, where they kidnap people and do that kind of stuff, but it's not sanctioned by the state. What we're talking about is state sanctioned slavery, and it has to be abolished. We cannot allow this evil institution to continue and destroying so many individual lives and families in the process. All right. So, what is some of the other news I wanted to get to? Let me pull up some stuff. I want to take it back to North Carolina just for a bit. I'm in BTRcommunity.com, which is the new social media platform that the Black Talk Media Project launched as a place for Black people to come together online and network without the fear of having all your personal information data mined and not trying to sell you a bunch of stuff and, you know, with these ads and using that as an excuse to data mine you. Oh, I'm just trying to serve you up with some relevant ads. So I need to be all up in your private messages and I need to know who your friends are and all that kind of stuff. So that is why it was created. So I'm on btrcommunity.com. There was an article from North Carolina Policy Watch because people, I don't believe in ignoring any area of people activity as defined by Mr. Neely Fuller, who we heard talked about earlier. You know, you got the 9 different areas: economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. I do not believe in not having a Black presence or counter-racist presence in any area of people activity. You can't ignore any area on the battlefield. You just can't do it. You can't do it. You can't do it. So I do pay attention to politics. Politics is like a preventive measure. A lot of people are not operating correctly in the area of politics because they're getting a lot of bad information. The media is working hand in hand with politicians, with the government, to keep you believing in lies, to keep you trapped in the same 2 choices, and you have more choices than that. All right. So, I mean, Malcolm X talked about becoming politically mature. And again, we don't have any kind of media, any kind of education that is educating our people properly on how to operate in the area of politics. And we do have one, which would give me an opportunity to mention the upcoming national convention, the first annual national convention of 1 million conscious Black voters and contributors. You can get more information and register for the conference, which kicks off on, I think, October the 21st, could be the 20th. But it kicks off in Atlanta on October the 21st. I think it lasts about 3 days. And you can go to IamOneOfTheMillion.com. And it is simply where we're using economics to impact the people, using one people activity area, economics, to impact another people activity area, politics. That's how they do it. It's not that hard to figure out, people. It's right there in your face. So we know the old saying, money talk, BS walk, right? And our people are not organized except for in the Democratic Party. Well, we don't run the Democratic Party. That is not something that Black people created, and it does not work in the best interest of Black people or anybody else for that matter. It acts just like the Republican Party in the best interest of USA Inc. and all their corporate buddies. Okay, so that's what I've been seeing for the most part. So getting back to this news out of North Carolina, I'm interested in this news because it helps me to learn, and it will help other people to learn about how to play the games of politics. The games that they play, even though, we shouldn't use that metaphor. It's not a game. People's lives are being severely impacted. These are the people that make slave codes and issue directives and control our money. Because whether you vote or not, you're paying for the elections. You're paying these politicians' salaries. You're paying for the infrastructure. And you don't get to opt out. You don't get to opt out. You ain't rich like Donald Trump. You don't get to lose $1 billion and then not have to pay taxes for another 20 years. We ain't operating like that, okay? So if I'm paying for something, I'm going to take ownership of it. So I do believe in that. And I don't look at any past failures or anything to deter me. I just say, hey, they didn't figure it out, or they ran up against this obstacle and they didn't find out how to get around it or get over it or run through it. So I don't let anything deter me. So Governor McCrory here in North Carolina, a vile racist who just really become very, very uncodified. He was one of them codified racists when he was in the mayor of Charlotte. But now he's just so uncodified, and that's what we'll call the Donald Trump effect, where these politicians be like, hey, look at Donald Trump. He's having all this success and getting all this attention, and the people are supporting him. Millions of people are supporting him, and you know, all this. Hey, I can talk like Donald Trump and keep it real. I don't have to be as codified and try to hide my racism and what have you. But now McCrory is seeing the mistakes in his uncodification, and he's seeking protection from explaining his involvement in crafting the state bill here, House Bill number 2. Now, this is what I wrote in my commentary. People get caught up on the bathroom portion, which addresses non-existent crime, but they forget the other racist, sexist, and discrimination against older workers that were part of this bill. And people had to fight through politics to get that stuff repealed. And it's still the bathroom portion is left now. But again, I said I do want to know who was behind writing it and getting it passed into law and how they did it. Again, it's not that black people don't have the intelligence to do the same sort of things, to write legislation and get it passed into law. We've seen it done in the past. We've seen it. If you study history, all of it, I've seen it, whether it was individuals or organizations. So I want to always, if I can learn from the enemy, I'm going to learn from the enemy. I'm going to use his tactics against him. It's not that hard to figure out. I don't know why people act like this system is so hard to figure out, because it's not. It's really not that complicated. It's not rocket science. It is a lot of minutia and details, and it does require a lot of time and commitment, but it's not like we need a bunch of, geniuses. I mean, you think Donald Trump's a genius? Do you think any of these people are geniuses? I don't. But it's what they have built. It's the machine that they have built. And media is going to be key for us as a people in terms of realizing our full potential politically. We can't have our people getting their information from comedians. So he's seeking protection. Let me pull up this article from North Carolina Policy Watch. Says Governor Pat McCrory has indicated in a court filing seeking legislative privilege that he had more to do with the preparation and introduction of House Bill 2 than he previously let on. In a speech a little over a month ago, McCrory claimed the North Carolina Chamber helped write part of the state's all-purpose LGBT discrimination law. The lobbyist group, see, again, I'm just talking about, I am one of the million. We are hoping that turns into a black political lobbying group. I don't run it. I'm not in charge of it, but I believe in the mission. I believe in the planks. I trust the men who started the movement. So I'm one of the million. I've given my $20 a year contribution. If we just had 1 million conscious black voters and contributors giving $20 a year to the movement, that's an annual budget of $20 million a year. Now we can play. We can play in the game of politics. Now we can pay for ads and stuff like that. Now we can commission the best and brightest among us to write legislation, anti-slavery legislation. Now we can line the pockets through the gifts that are legal, give them a couple of tickets, pay for their meal. hey, if we gonna play the game, we gotta play the game right. If we not doing what these other corporations and stuff is doing, then we gonna continue to lose. So anyway, this racist McCrory is just trying to hide his involvement in writing the legislation and how much he was in. Now, since it's turned out to be a political disaster, again, they had it so that you couldn't sue in state courts, you couldn't sue your employer for practicing racism against you. And we know how they practice racism. I mean, just like when I first got out the military, I was doing what they call material handling work. So all I'm doing is taking these rolls of cloth that weigh about 50 pounds each, some a little lighter, and we're, loading up a trailer by hand with these things. So it was like seasonal work. I got laid off. Everybody got laid off. But they ain't called nobody back when the work picked back up but the black people. But the white boys. And some of them white boys I was like playing basketball with on the weekend, playing football on the weekend. And they was like, why you ain't come back to work? You find another job, something like that? I was like, no, they ain't call me back. Y'all back at work? So I went and filed a complaint, and they did find on my behalf that they practiced racism against me, and then in the pay. So I can go on and on and on. Yes, going to the caller yesterday, you don't know what I have suffered from this system. Talking about the reparations and nobody's enslaving you and nobody's doing this or doing that. BS. I call BS. So I didn't mean to go off on that tangent, people, but he is claiming legislative privilege. That's where they get to keep these documents and email communications and the things that were said behind the scenes and who actually wrote it, who paid for it. Did they go to ALEC? And then somebody went to one of them ALEC conferences and they said, hey, why don't y'all push this bill? The American Legislative Exchange Commission, where a bunch of corporations have pooled their money together and bringing these politicians in and saying, we want you to go back to the states and pass this into law. See, we ain't operating on that level. All we doing is voting. So if all you doing is voting, and even if you voting for the right people, you think, that ain't even half of the game. So it's easy to see why some people would say that they don't matter. Well, they do matter. But it's a whole lot more to it than simply casting a ballot. See, we got to get in on the writing of legislation. We got to get in and getting politicians in our pockets that's going to push the legislation. We know how things get done in Washington, D.C., so why aren't we doing them? So I wanted to share that. He's trying to keep this. Let me just give you a definition of what they say legislative privilege is. Legislative privilege is a legal immunity that protects legislatures from criminal or civil liability for anything said or done during the course of their legislative duties. It's often used in voting rights cases as a way for legislatures to conceal their communications and motives when a law is passed. And so again, going back to HB 2, the other provisions that did end up getting repealed, they had uncovered communications where they were admitting, it was even admitted, these races in North Carolina, Donald Trump got them so uncodified that they was admitting on the floor of the North Carolina House, in the chambers, admitting on the floor their racist intent. This is in documents. So what does Mr. McCrory have to hide? What criminal deeds have been done? What is he civilly liable for? See, they passed this joint in a one-day special session. Probably violated all kind of laws and or procedures and whatnot. So now they're trying to hide their doings. So I just think it's very important to know what's going on in your state, know what's going on in your county, and not just be focused on what's going on nationally, what's going on globally. I could just sit here in my spot in rural North Carolina where some days I don't even see a police car, let alone get stopped by one, let alone as I'm walking on the road, walking up and down the road, wherever I'm walking to, usually a cousin's house. I'm not getting slave catchers rolling up on me, pulling some stop and frisk, talking about I look like a gang member because I got on a red shirt or something. So I could ignore all of this. But I don't want it to get to that point. So that's why I'm engaged in all the different people activity areas that I'm engaged in. I don't want to respond. I want to be proactive. So I'm trying to prevent my county from getting like that. Not to say I live in a perfect county or anything. Lots of racism being practiced here. It's just not impacting me personally because I no longer depend on these racist suspects for a job. So it's very important, though, to before we say this won't work or that won't work, well, why isn't it working? It seemed to be working for them. Seemed to work for other people as well. I mean, that's how them indigenous Native Americans is getting paid. That's why they just got that $100 million settlement. See, they know how to play the game. They playing it right. What do we have? We have people who look like us, but they not black. They Democrats. And they act like other politicians. Whoever's putting the dollars into their campaign, making those big, large campaign contributions. The ones that's paying for them to come do this or come do that. The ones that's underwriting these little functions that they have. If you go look at, the Congressional Black Caucus, PAC, and look at all the different corporations they taking money from, then you will see that they ain't working in your interest regardless of their skin color. Taking money from slavers, taking money from cigarette companies, taking money from malt liquor companies, taking money from corporations that's involved in, the communications where they're ripping off families for trying to stay in touch with their enslaved loved ones. So, I just want to make it known that I believe in operating in every people activity area. I'm not a master of all of them, but I try to be competent and learn as much as possible. So let me move on from that story. Let me see what else. Haitians, I already talked about that. Here's something I mentioned yesterday on Tando Radio Show, but before I do that, let me check the phone lines. Let me give out the phone number again. It is 641-715-3660. Participant codes 549-032#. Hit *6 and 1 to comment on air. Studio line is 704-951-5030. I got about 8 minutes left in the broadcast because I do have 2 other programs that I need to engineer, and I need to get working on solution, code breakers, so that they'll be able to stream on YouTube as well. So don't wait till the last minute. If I need to go over a little bit, I will, but don't plan on staying on air, just to ramble. Not that I'm rambling or anything like that, but, I'm trying to be more efficient with my time. So let's go to area code 719. I think I may be mistaken, but I think this brother Ramon on the line.
Yeah, Scotty, what's up, bro?
Hey, what's up, bro? Glad to see you made it into BTR community.
Yeah, me too, man. Actually, I'll speak to you about something else on that. Hey, Scotty, I want to, if it's okay with you, since you said it's an open panel, I'd like to respond. I'd like to make a comment or a response to that gentleman that called earlier about the biracial dating, or, just dating outside of our own group, if that's what he was saying. Is that clear?
Yes.
Okay. Here's my take on it. Last night, to be quite honest, here's what I've always thought about it, and I tried dating. Well, I'll say this: women outside of my group love to try to date me, so I'll put it that way. Here's what I did discover last night when we were on the cows. There was a young lady on there, a young black lady at that, and one of the things I noticed with her is she took offense when someone asked her if she was dating outside of her race, which I think was a clear indication. But the point of that, me bringing that up, is that within her willingness to come on the show and speak about, racism, in her perspective, and she had the ability to kind of travel around. What I noticed in her approach on trying to describe it from a black person's point of view, being someone that seems like she is involved in a lot of white association, what I got from this young lady is she, like many, have tried their best to explain what white people feel and how they feel so bad about racism. I'm only 43, and I can just say comfortably I've been in very diverse groups of white people. I mean, some of the most subtle, which I believe happen to be the most dangerous of them all.
We call them codified racists.
Exactly. Very refined in how they get around with this, getting away with it. And on top of that, what I found is the young lady was very confused in how she was trying to explain their feelings. That's the problem I think the man that called in earlier was trying to ask or point out, is that if I'm in love with somebody of a different nationality or group or color, my first instinct is probably going to be to try to defend them, because that's where my heart belongs. I think that's probably one of the greatest problems we're having. That doesn't mean people can't choose what they want to, but to me that is a very much why we keep going up and down with each other. Some of us still do want to fight for the involvement of the global community. I'm not opposed to doing business with other groups, because that's what we should be doing. We should do business with other groups. Mm-hmm. But I am very much one who believes in, and it took me a long time to get to this thinking, but after seeing the behavior of people, and when I say white, I'm going to say it just like you. I think white folks come in very, very many colors, because if all white folk were to pass off the face of the earth right now, the mentality of white supremacy is in the heads of every one of us. And we're going to practice it until we truly are honest and accurate with what ourselves are doing. And I wanted to ask you, do you think, with that being the case, can we truly get to a resolve?
This is the way I look at it. Okay. You said, I don't know how old this individual was. Okay. And then not that age means necessarily a young person is necessarily more confused than the other older person. Because I've seen some very confused people in their 70s. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah, I did.
So confusion, there's a lot of people out there confused. Okay. And in terms of a person dating outside their race, again, that's not where I'm at. That's not where I'm at. I'm, right now, and I've dated maybe one white person, and that was when I was in middle school. I had a little white girlfriend for about a month, and that was it. It was it. I, just not attracted to them in that kind of way or anything like that. But again, I'm judging people off of what they do. I don't, and she shouldn't be trying to explain, let's say, white-splain to black people. Just like black people shouldn't be trying to black-splain to white people. Either you get it or you don't. It ain't that hard to figure out what's going on. Slavery ain't hard to figure out what's going on. Racism ain't hard to figure out what's racism. We know what racism is. It's mistreatment based on a person's skin color. And so all this, I don't see what some of these people are playing dumb and playing confused and what have you. So again, I can't put a person in a cookie cutter category and say that all people involved in interracial marriages have this mindset, because they may not.
Okay.
They may not.
Okay. Well, Scotty, and see, like you, I think you probably learned about me is I'm not going to try to convince nobody what they should believe,
Right.
how they should go about life. Because, hey, if you find out, here's my take on it.
Had to
Let's
find
say
some
you
people
and
had
I-
to live and learn and find out the hard way. And so
Well, here's one to counter that, though, Scotty. I don't mean to cut you off, but this comment always comes to my head when I hear people say that. And I tell my family on the regular, if let's say we were all traveling in a line down the road, and all of a sudden you start seeing people that were in front of you turning back around, yet they're coming back in your direction, and they're saying to you, it's a dead end down there. There's nothing there. Is it always necessary for us to go walk to the dead end to find out that somebody just coming from the direction, they're coming in the opposite direction? That's the problem I think is holding up a lot of those people who want to stay in that type of situation. Once again, I don't condemn these folks.
yeah, I
I
don't
do want to
condemn
ask
them.
you, or at least I want to say this too. On the show that was in podcast, The Lotus Place, that was just airing before you came on.
Yeah.
What is that young lady's name that was showing frustration about, Sister Delta not understanding what Korean Games was going up against or what she was battling?
I think you're talking about, because I don't use their real names. They don't use their real names on the show.
That's
so,
fine. I know they said on the
I
show.
think
and I was
that
trying to
is
decipher.
Zola. I want
Man.
to think it wasn't. I know what show you're talking about. Somebody else brought that show up to me earlier today too. But yeah,
Well,
go ahead.
They were talking about Dr. Sebi and activism.
Okay, yeah, I'm
show
aware of the
title.
conversation.
Okay. You said her name is Zoe. All I wanted to say is I think that sister hit it right on the head when she had to. I know she came out of her probably normal, character.
Yeah, you
but
can hear
she
frustration
said it-
because they know her and they've had those conversations behind the scenes, and they don't seem to be getting through to her, and that's what I heard was frustration with her.
And just all I was doing was trying to say that part of her, that segment, and to me, it captured exactly the difficulties and the frustration. And I know Mrs. Delta wasn't trying to make any excuse for the police. It was the fact she was pointing out good judgment, parental judgment for the child's safety. Somewhere in there, I do remember her not hearing that they told that the Korean was telling her child to go with the baby's father or something, or her boyfriend. But just to see that it could never get through to her at that point just was kind of a good example of what I think the young man who called earlier is trying to get an answer of. Will this help us? And you've already answered to your part. And I thank you, Scotty, for doing what you're doing once again. You know I'm on board, and I'll mute my line.
All right, thank you for that. Let me put this out again. I try to look at everybody's view and see the logic in it, and I don't know if he said if swirling will help us. I don't think interracial marriage, it hasn't to this point helped us eliminate racism, nor has it helped us eliminate what gave birth to racism, and that's slavery. So let me make that clear. Now, I have heard something that I do agree with. And it's not based on hating white folks, but it is sort of like a strike. I've heard people say that a black male or a black man or a black woman should abstain from having sex with white people until they do more to eliminate the system of racism. That's perfectly logical to me, because I've said something similar, but it was in a different context. I was saying, you sisters out there don't know the power that you have over us brothers. Okay? That's why these guys spend so much money on rims and on cars trying to impress you. Spending all this money on clothes, designer, trying to impress a woman. Okay, I went through that stage as a young man, not saying that I only, dress myself because I was trying to impress a woman. No, my mama always dressed me to impress, and that kind of stuck with me. So, but anyway, I was saying that if we want our brothers to stop engaging in destructive community, then boycott. No, look, we holding back on the P. You're not getting none of the love box until black folks start killing each other over nonsense. So I liken that to the same thing that I heard about. There should be no interracial dating going on, no love making going on. If white people want some of that black love so much, then end the system of racism. And then we can talk. We can work together on other stuff. We can do business, but that's getting kind of personal. That's like, yeah, no. Until, if you really want this black love, then I suggest you start working double time on ending the system of racism. If that means that you got to confront your brother, your cousin, your mama, your whatever, if that means you got to start snitching on racists on the job and stop helping them cover it up, then that's what you got to do. But until that system has been replaced, has been eliminated, then yeah, I could see that logic makes sense to me. All right, let me move on to the next call. Area code 702. Thank you for calling in. Go ahead with your question or comment.
Thank you so much for taking my call. I just had a quick question. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm having some issues with trying to convince my family and my current boyfriend on trying to be more codified, or at least wanting to help or recognize the black struggle, I guess if you could call it that. And I don't want to necessarily leave them behind, especially my family, because I'm going to have to be around them, and even trying to turn them on to just being more prepared, because I do listen to the Tando radio show. So what would you suggest on how to combat them, if they're saying kind of anti-black things, and for me to not get so frustrated?
So let me restate what I think I'm hearing, that you have some folks in your family that are not as conscious as you are, and they don't seem to show any interest of becoming more conscious. And the things that you try to share with them, they're pretty much ignoring you. And you are trying to find out a way to address this issue without causing more internal conflict in the family. Am I hearing that correct? Did I restate that back to you right?
Yes, that's definitely correct.
That's a tough question, because it depends on so many different variables, like individuals. And so just like with abolitionism, I'll use my daughters for example. My daughters grew up going in between. I had custody of them, but every weekend they went to go spend time with their mother. And, as teenagers, spending the summer with their mother. It's not like she lived in another state. I mean, she just lives in the next town over. But I was trying to get them to become more conscious, and I would share things with them, and they would, basically they would listen, but I could tell they didn't have no interest in what I was talking about. I would ask them to tune in to Black Talk Radio and what have you. When I had gotten that grant from another nonprofit to push the U.S. Census and people, filling those things out and going back, I got her involved in that. And so now that she's like 25, now she's coming into her own consciousness. Now she has an interest, and I'm talking about just one of them. Okay, my baby girl, she grew up with her mother in Charlotte, and I tried to talk to her, and she would come with me on the weekends, but she just not interested. So I mean, it's nothing I can do except for plant the seed, get in the information. I even gave her the book on that Pam Trojan Horse Press wrote, False Beauty Standard, because my baby girl was wearing blind weave and blue contacts and all that kind of crazy mess. And so I gave her that book because she was tired of me badgering her about why you wearing that blonde wig. That don't look good on you. You shouldn't. So, but she her own person. So now she's starting to come out of that. I can't say if that book I gave her played a role into that. So some people have to learn in their own time. They have to see it. All you can do, sis, is plant the seeds and continue to be a living example and let them see you do what you're supposed to be doing. And then if they want to become a part of that, then they'll become a part of that. But if they don't want to be a part of that, then, again, I'm not going to leave my daughters behind, whether they conscious or unconscious. My baby girl that live in Charlotte can come here. I'm going to go get her and bring her here. So I'm not going to turn my back on my baby girl. But in terms of her extended family on that side, I don't have room for you and what have you. So I'm not really providing you with a concrete answer because I can't give you one because there are just too many variables. So just do what you're supposed to do as a living example. Share with them like during dinner conversation or when it's appropriate, and share these things and just not worry about it after that. You've done your part.
Right, no, I appreciate that, and that definitely helps me out a lot. Well, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Bye.
All right, let's go to the next caller. And let me see, is this the same caller or caller just hung up? I'm not sure. The board moved on me. 754, did you have a question or comment?
Hey, what's going on, Scotty?
Brother Sin, man, good to hear from you, man. So Hurricane Matthew didn't impact you that much as we've been reading in Florida.
No, man. I've been doing a lot of running around, a lot of work. You know what I mean. But I made the call to check on y'all. And yesterday I was listening to the broadcast, and I heard, that Max's family, you know what I mean, might be going through that kid, and going through a little something with the prayer with his daughter. So I just, you know what I mean, I wanted to get in yesterday, but I worked so much, no excuse. But we good, man. I was glad to hear that y'all good too. So
yeah.
We good now. We just got a bunch of wind and a bunch of rain.
That's all we got.
Yeah. A bunch of wind, a bunch of rain. But I called it right out. I said, man, I done been through the major ones. I know, like, through the forecast and how I feel and everything, I know we're about to get hit. So, but, I was listening to the conversation that I forget his name. God, it just slipped my tongue. But about interracial relationships and about just that whole aspect of the sex there, I guess you could say, amongst us. I feel that when it comes to, I feel that provides a lot of confusion. Like, a lot of us others feel as well that it's confusing. You hear all this stuff about racism, but you find yourself in love with somebody whose race is said to purport to put the racism out, to start it, and keep it going. So, and I understand the confusion, but that's why I always, and I'm doing more research on it, but that's why I tend to lean towards, I think the hate that comes from, the hate that fuels racism, that fuels slavery, and that fuels slavery. I just feel like it comes from almost just a basic, just looking at, white people looking at black people like, gosh, these people are endowed, they're muscular, they have stature, they walk in the room, you feel it, you have presence.
So you're saying some of them are like sexual predators on black people, like what's her name? Lena Dunham, who was acting a fool because Odell Beckham didn't want none of her nasty draws.
Right. And that's why I feel that, I know, me and you, Scott, we kind of differ on this.
That's okay, man. That's okay.
You know how we are. But I feel like the hate, from the very beginning, the hate came from just visually looking. They're not, and from both sides, because when we look at just like you were saying, you just not attracted to white girls. I've dated a couple white girls, but it's just something about them. I can't keep a relationship with them. I can't do it. It's not enough there. I just put it like that. It's not enough there. It's not the same. So it's like, I always say in my mind, is this where the hate comes from? You looking at somebody that is unattractive, but they're in front of you, and vice versa. Are you looking at somebody you want to be like them so bad, like they got nice butt, got nice breasts, and the guys are full, you know what I mean, muscular. And I see that, and even in today, I call a cow sometime, and I had a situation where I had a supervisor that was, trying to play up on me, a white guy, trying to play up on me like, almost like he's, that he's gay, and not almost, because he's not gay or homosexual to my knowledge, but just, wanting to be up next to me, close to me and stuff like that, like Mother Wilson was saying.
I'm sorry, Sin, but I got to break in right there. When I was in the military, I met this brother. He wasn't in my unit. When I had, this is when I first went in. So I was attached to like this aviation unit, maintenance unit that work on like the helicopters and stuff. So they didn't really have a communication section. They were supposed to have one, but they didn't. So I got assigned to them, and instead of letting me do my job, which I was able to do later, because I would have had my own office and, working for myself, basically, because I'm the only one that has been trained in communications for that. So, but they had me working in, like, handing out parts and stuff to the mechanics. And so this dude would come from another hangar. He was in this other unit, and he was from Detroit. And so I was like, I grew up there, but I moved back down south when I was like 12 or 13. So he was real cool, man. We had some of the same interests and stuff like that. So we started hanging out, outside of the job and what have you. Come to find out the dude was gay, man. He was gay. I was fooled because he had a wife. But see, his wife was gay too. And so they
call them cover girls.
Cover girl. So I found out he was gay. So I'm saying, man, you can't always tell. So he might be trying to snuggle up against you, but then he may not be. I don't know. But like I said to that dude, well, I don't roll that way, but I was willing to be your friend before I found out, and I'm still willing to be your friend. Just don't ever try me, because if you try me, we're going to have some problems now. Yeah.
That's right. See, but with this guy, and he's a white guy, you know what I mean? It was more of, you recall when Mother Wilson was, I think she was speaking about the ISIS papers, and she was speaking about one of her co-workers was talking about how a white guy would, always brush up on him and be like, let me see it. Talking about his penis, you know what I mean? He wanted to see his penis. Like the infatuation of the black phallus, the infatuation of how we built, you know what I mean, how we look on sight. And it comes back to the basic need to reproduce. You want to, when you want to reproduce, you want to be with who you want to be with, what's attractive to you. And I just think that's where the hate comes from. I think that's where all the dominant. I look at some of these white people and how they have sex and all these encounters and stuff. It's demonic, and I don't know. But I just wanted to touch on that. Yeah. Also, I wanted to ask you about, and I apologize if I missed a segment on it, if you did have a segment on it, about Hillary Clinton when she was an attorney in 1975, and she represented this accused rapist of a 12-year-old.
Yeah, I saw the video and heard the audio.
You heard the audio?
Yes.
I just heard a guy speaking on it today, right wing. I forget his name and I forget the show, but a right wing guy. But he came with the aspect of borderline, just straight down the middle, on taking no sides. And I was blown away. About she was in the defense team. They got evidence from the prosecutor saying that what went on, what happened, this and that, whatever. They got the evidence and they need to do it themselves. I guess a couple months later, the evidence turned up missing. They vilified the young lady. The girl is only 12 years old, saying how she was promiscuous at the age she was.
Yeah, I heard it. Yeah, I heard it.
that was crazy to me, Scotty. I
So
never
I don't
heard
understand
that.
though. You're saying that the guy was trying to defend Hillary Clinton's actions?
No, he wasn't defending Hillary Clinton's actions. He was saying that, okay, the omissions of Donald Trump, you know, his locker room talk and all that, you know, he's being vilified, rightly so, by women and by everybody. But, you know, just some of the things that he was saying.
Yeah.
Men, we say that type of stuff all the time, but, you know, you got caught saying that, hey, hand in the cookie jar, pay the price. But
let's not act like women don't sexually objectify men too. But I'm not making an excuse for Donald Trump, because what he described to me was sexual assault. You know, remember when they was going after okay, I got that mixed up. That was a different saying. Remember them colleges students was talking about effer in the P. You know what I'm saying? They would try to run up on live news broadcasts and say effer in the P. You know, stupid stuff like that. And so he was like, I'm grabbing these women by the P. You know, I'm like, that's sexual assault. That's sexual assault. I mean, I didn't sexually assault women. I don't go around hugging women and then putting my hands, you know, grabbing them by the booty or grabbing them by their private parts or just to cop a feel. That's sick, man. And I'm not going to let them act like all men do that type of stuff. And I've been in plenty of locker rooms, being that I'm a former athlete through school and what have you. And you know, I mean, you talk about somebody's attractive, or I wasn't the type to kiss and tell, because I found out when you kiss and tell, that's a good way to get cut off. So I didn't engage in that type of locker room talk, and I didn't hear a whole lot of it. So
you know how it is though in the locker room, because you know I played basketball too most of my life, and you know how we talk. You know, we talk about women. You know what I mean? Like you said, but we don't talk about raping. We don't talk about.
But we were kids, though. We were children, teenagers, adolescents. We talking about a grown ass man. Come on.
Hey, Scotty, can I be here a second?
Yeah.
This is Ramon. Hey, I'm glad y'all two on the phone talking about this. I'm gonna go on record and say this. I do not agree with the gentleman saying this is locker room talk, because that is not something. I was a sports player too, growing up as a young man. And I'll be quite honest with you, one thing I hated, and I'm going to prove this, and y'all can go put it to the test yourself. I hated when guys would watch women walk past, like, sites and stuff, and they start doing that. They want to try to get you, or when I say you, I'm talking about me. They want to try to get you to get involved on those comments. That is not locker room talk. That is white boy construction talk, and that is corporate, high-level guys. That's where you hear that type of disrespect. I have told my wife, my daughters, because they will argue with me about form-fitting clothes, and I told them, when you go around men, I do not care what man it is, you have to always be concerned that if if your shape is visibly clear, then you cannot dictate what goes across that man's mind, but he dictates his actions. And another thing, when I worked commercial construction, I had to pull my business out of the commercial industry because of what y'all talking about. Them guys are foul, and as far as I'm concerned, they express the greatest level of homosexuality that I have heard. And
now that's a good point. That's so fine that you say that, because now when I say locker room talk, I don't mean in that way. I don't mean to that level of when you just said about homosexuality, like dominating talk. That's what that is. What Donald Trump did, and you're right to call it out for what it is. Speak proper terms. That's not locker room talk. That's not what we do. What we have done. But we've talked about women. You know, girls we might talk to. They just see the cheerleader over there. They just see mom in the row over there. Things like that.
That's typical human behavior. That's not a gender specific thing.
He went to the level of, like you say, a sadist, a rapist, groping and all that type of stuff. But my point is this: what Hillary Clinton did, what Donald Trump did, got all that press, and rightly so. And he should be vilified for it. He should be called out like he is for it. But the things what Hillary Clinton did with her trial has been so long ago. But I would like to see those things highly publicized. Like
well, it is being highly publicized, but you just ain't exposing yourself to the right wing media. They are talking about it. And don't think that Rush Limbaugh and the Glenn Becks and the other ones ain't making excuses for Trump and pointing out the things that Bill did and Hillary did as well. It's just that, again, corporate media is part of the game. And so you're going to have certain stations that are pro this person and pro that person, and they're going to slant their media coverage. So you're not going to see all of that talked about on MSNBC. You will definitely see it talked about on Fox News. So it's just the difference in the outlets and what white supremacists they down with.
But hey, Scotty, if the gentleman that's talking, I like what he said. Trying to call out both sides of it. So I get, and Scotty, you just said it, man. The most important thing that's going on. I had this talk with my wife last night. I said, what's disgusting about this is that everybody is giving viewership to this behavior. I don't understand why we don't see CNN, MSNBC as part of raising the raising the alarm against black people being thugs. They're helping because that's why they're keeping that madness on TV as long as they are. You mean to tell me there ain't nothing else to talk about than Donald Trump groping some woman? Now that's a very important thing, but that's a goddamn.
It should not run the headlines like that, though.
And it shouldn't be a week-long story either. It's other stuff.
That's right.
What I'm asking is, why ain't an attorney stepping up saying, man, that's a sexual crime? That we don't even have to hear it no more. That's a crime.
I did hear an attorney say that, and the thing that he left off, because he was saying this is a crime. Now there might be some statutes of limitation involved, but he's used the example of Bill Cosby. He said Bill Cosby facing a criminal child. If Bill Cosby was caught on tape saying this, it would be used against him in his criminal child. So I said, okay, nobody's come forward to press charges against Donald Trump, and it may be a statute of limitations thing, but that young woman who's filed that lawsuit against him for raping her and beating her, she can use that in her lawsuit that's in the federal courts right now that they ain't talking about.
Wow. I didn't know there was a lawsuit out there, Scotty.
Yes. It's one against him and one against Bill Clinton, and it's all connected to that pedophile billionaire who gave most of his money to Democrats, Jeffrey Epstein, who was able to pay off a number of his victims, and he didn't even do a year in jail, man. But he's a lifetime sexual predator, so that don't mean nothing to a billionaire who got his own private island.
That's what we're not talking about. You keep bringing it up, but it doesn't keep getting focused on. That's what I was trying to say in my comment. I have a strong suspicion homosexuality is a thing white men and white women can only exist doing. I'm going to say it like this.
No doubt. I agree with that.
How do we accept the notion or the argument LGBT, all these little titles
acronyms and stuff.
Yeah, these acronyms separate them from the one true word. It's homosexuality.
Yep.
That's
it's
it.
abnormal.
Why are we talking about anything else if we're going to talk about it?
Because the reason it doesn't get played like that is because the people that are at the top of the people at the top, 9 points of human activity, in all 9 points. And at the top of them is homosexuality, rampant, from all 9 points. So until we can unseed their power by, like you said, spreading the word constantly, talking to our people on the ground level. Look, this is what it is. You know what I mean? You're not born this way. It's not something you came.
Well, see, I disagree with you, seeing, because some of them are born this way. They're victims of chemical warfare.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying, Scotty. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying they're not born that way. I don't agree with that's in your DNA. I don't agree with that. I agree with it's in the food, it's in the music, it's in the politics, it's in the education, it's in the religion, it's in war, it's in everywhere you go. So how can you go generations with this same, with homosexuality in all points, everything that you do is homosexuality rampant, especially at the top on down. So how can through generations? So how can you say that you are gay? I don't believe that you are gay. I believe that's a decision that you made because of some trauma or drama in your life, along with the other things.
And that's one of the reasons why I don't believe in mistreating. I don't believe in mistreating anyone.
Well,
period.
try this one on besides Scotty and brother that's talking. I mean, you pointed out the more obvious hurtful ways. Well, let's talk about the subtle ways that we sell it. We help sell homosexuality. And I'm gonna give you my greatest example: Christmas. How many people ever thought about sitting their child on the lap of a overweight white man that loves happy and give your kids gifts? Ain't this the concept of a damn pedophile?
Hey,
isn't that how pedophilia does?
You're right.
Well, then we get right into it. So white supremacy ain't going nowhere until we talking about the melanated people.
Right. More of us.
But listen, guys. Hey, I gotta wind down the conversation because I gotta get some stuff done for the code breakers coming on at night and Tando coming up at 6. So I gotta jump off a little bit early, man. But I appreciate both. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm gonna buy out, Scotty, but can you give Ramon? My name is Sin. You know what I'm saying? And I'm in South Florida. But I want Scotty, give him a number, and then because I found out, just like Dave said, we all around the world. But once we talk to each other, we need to connect. And
do you got an email address you can give them?
Oh yeah.
Sam, are you on? Are you a member? Are you
a member
to the
Black Talk community? Not yet. Friday yet, but not yet.
Okay, brother. I'm gonna bargain with you then. Man. Let's do business right now. Let's show each other how to do business. Sign up to Black Talk right now for $24 or whenever you can. All my information is under LA Ramon. That's the best way to get me.
Okay. All right. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna do that. And I thank you for speaking to you, bro. And I thank you, Sally, for this platform, man. Like always.
All right, brothers. And y'all stay safe.
Bow out, man. Y'all have a good day.
All right, y'all stay safe behind these enemy lines. Always stay vigilant, and because hey, it's a lot that's going on, and we don't want to make it easy for these people to victimize us. All right. So anyway. Coming up at 6 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time will be Tando Radio Show. That's on from 6 to 8. And then closing out our live streaming for tonight from 10 o'clock p.m. Eastern to midnight will be Code Breakers. So make sure y'all check out those programs and remember to share the network, whether we're talking about blacktalkradionetwork.com or btrcommunity.com. We believe in spreading it by word of mouth. Share it with those people that you think would benefit from it. So, we do want to try to help expose people to as correct information as possible. And that's like planting a seed. So you plant a seed, you tell them where to go, and you don't keep beating people over the head with stuff because then, it kind of leads to conflict. So I do believe in planting seeds, and eventually in their own time, people will start to mature or start to grow into other areas. I do think we do have to be very patient with people, but I'm just thinking about the earlier caller, the woman who had called in and asked that question, because when we're talking about blood, when we're talking about family, you don't want to leave people behind, but you have to make difficult decisions sometimes. And so I just wish you all the best in that decision, because I understand exactly where you're coming from. All right, so that's the end of Black Talk Radio News. I will be on air tomorrow night, Wednesday night, on New Abolitionist Radio, as we try to expose the masses to 21st century slavery and human trafficking. We ain't talking about the illegal time. We're talking about state-sponsored slavery and state-sponsored human trafficking. So y'all check us out tomorrow evening, 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern time. And check out all the other independent media producers that work with us, network through the Black Talk Radio Network. You'll find some independent stations. A couple of new stations were just added with some brothers who had, getting their media game on. So check it all out. That's what we're here for, is to assist you with new media for this new millennium. So I will end it here if I can get to my controls. Wow. All right. Yeah. And I'll see y'all tomorrow on New Abolitionist Radio.